Welcome, everybody. I'm here with the delightful and super talented Alice Shieh. And Alice has been a member of our TrueBrow community for, Alice, how long now? How many years?
2016.
So that's what can we do?
7 years.
7 years. 7 years. I mean, some girls are closing their 10th year anniversary at the moment, like heaps of them. It's amazing, isn't it? But Alice, you're quite an extraordinary woman, I would say, and I don't say that lightly because you've done so many things, and COVID was really something huge for you. I mean, it was huge for the world, but for Alice Shieh, like, wow, it really was incredible, wasn't it? Because you delved into, quite a few things. I want you to briefly just tell us a little bit about, because you've got Alice Smith Astrology right there where your name is, right? So everyone's going to be seeing that, and you are an astrologer. You did that, you studied that during COVID. Was it before as well?
I'd always studied it, and lockdown during COVID was the opportunity that actually gave me the space to dare to wonder, maybe I could do this professionally. Because that was never before. We have so many things that we love, and we've just automatically just shoved them on the pile of, this is just the little habit I do in the comfort of my own home behind closed doors. And COVID was the thing that just really allowed me the permission to open the door and go, what if?
And that's just really, but there's something else that you've done that's super duper unbelievable that we're going to talk about today, because we have spoken about the astrology side, and people can always connect with you if they want a reading. I've had a reading with you. Toby's had a reading. I loved my reading. It's like up until now, it seems totally perfect and accurate. Thank you for that. The good and the bad and the ugly, all of that. But where did they contact you for that part? Because we better just get that out of the way, because some girls will want to.
Yes. So I practice my astrology under my married name, Alice Smith, and you can contact me at alicesmithastrology.com or on Instagram at Alice Smith Astrology.
There you go. Perfect. So everyone, we've got that out of the way. I think everyone should have their birth chart read. It takes you out of your little tiny self and gives you a big picture view of why certain things are happening, so you can transcend them as entrepreneurs, just as women, just as souls. Go do it. I think it's a fantastic thing. But today we're talking about something that is very, very exciting. Why don't you just take us into what it is and explain it to everyone so that we can just get yapping about it? Go ahead.
So I have finally published my book, Vassal. It is an urban fantasy, and it's been my baby for years, and it was just always something I was working on quietly in the background. I finished it during the pandemic because that was what actually gave me the time and the space to finally just finish the thing, because I had always told myself that I needed just a chunk of time to really sit down and just read it in its whole, across the entire breath, take it in as a holistic piece. But I never had that because as an entrepreneur owning my own spa studio, I'd always just kind of steal pockets of time here and there. And I knew that I needed a big chunk of time. And then when the pandemic hit and gifted me that chunk of time, I basically had to face the music and admit that if I didn't do it then, I couldn't face myself, because for years I had saying, I need time. And then the pandemic gave me time, did it. And that's actually how I met my husband as well, because he was my editor.
Wow, hilarious. That's such good news. I love everyone. If you're looking for a husband or a partner, just write a book. That's all you have to do.
Just write a book. So I joke when people ask us how we met, I just joke that I hired him.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I bet you he loves that. He probably laughs a lot. He probably thinks that's fantastic. That is amazing, isn't it? I remember that just because I've read some of this book. And I also know that Toby's read some of this book when it first came out, when you first you sent us some pieces. Oh my God, I could not believe. Look, Toby and I, we went nuts. We couldn't, honestly. Am I allowed to say that we read little bits of it? I can't believe it. like Toby wanted to just read the whole thing, like he was just like, we were in awe. And I think that it's just fantastic. And it means that people can actually go and buy it. So what's it called? Give us its name again.
So
We should
it's
probably
called
put it on
Vassal.
so spell it so everyone knows, because we
So
really should put
Vassal,
it on
Vassal. So it's Vassal, V as in Victor, Assal, by Alice Shieh. And Shieh is spelled Shieh. Amazon's going to try to correct it to Sheih. It's not. I before E.
Oh, right. Truly, really. So we could put a link up anyway. So it doesn't even matter. We can put a link up, can't we? We didn't think of that, did we? I've got to say, it's very early where you are and it's very late where I am. So we're forgiven. We've got to be forgiven. We will put up a link so anyone that wants to get it. Now, tell us a little bit about what it's about so that people know, because it's obviously a fantasy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's urban fantasy.
What does that mean? What's urban fantasy?
So it's urban fantasy set in modern day Seattle.
Right.
Set in an urban setting. And it involves vampires, but my vampires don't glitter. I really wanted to go back to the vampire stories that I really loved as a child, where vampires were monsters and creatures of tragedy. And for me, I really wanted to explore the themes of what it means to actually be alive. And I truly feel that to truly be alive, you must experience death. And so that's the tragedy of the vampire for me. As it, to me, I think on the surface, we see the modern vampire as creatures of glamour and beauty, and they're strong and sexy, and they're dark and mysterious. And for me, I feel that it's just so tragic to live in perpetuity without an ending, because to me, that's stunted and that's sad, and you just cannot move on and you can't evolve and grow. So I really wanted to grapple with that theme. The story is about a covert operative named Maggie Fox, who works for a government agency that actually is aware of preternatural creatures like vampires and witches and werewolves even, and they work behind the scenes to kind of maintain the peace and control the vampire population. And there is a tenuous peace that's been brokered between vampires and humans, that was brokered by a treaty that is what this covert government agency enforces. She is coming out of a past of shame. She led a mission that went totally awry. She was a rising superstar in this agency, and now she's got sent to Seattle. She's been exiled to this really undesirable outpost in the agency, and she has to find her footing again. And in the midst of coming back to herself and healing, especially from she carries survivor's guilt with her as well, she meets up with a dangerous vampire from her past, and that's what really sets the story off. And yeah, I love this. I actually started writing it when I was a teenager, but the period of time I was writing about was about Maggie's past, when she leading up to this mission that blew up. And I kept trying to go back to the story of Maggie, but as I got older, it didn't fit anymore. I needed her to grow up a little bit more to fit my own maturity level. So, and then one day it just clicked. I was like, what if all that stuff I had written is just part of backstory that's just in my head? And now she's starting over, and I catch her up maturity wise with me, and I start a new story.
Wow. Wow,
So
that is amazing. So, to me, it kind of sounds like it's almost like there's themes in there that could be very helpful when it comes to people dealing with things within themselves psychologically, their own guilt, their own, because we're talking really, we use the word vampire, but we all have a shadow side, human beings. So, you know, we're dealing with human things, but you've made it into this urban fantasy. I mean, I love the way you write. For
Thank you.
me, I was so engaged. I mean, and I know how beautifully you write because of being in the TrueBrow community. You're very, very articulate. You write beautifully. But this story, you know, there are certain things I think that you've come to really experience in this lifetime. And this is astrology is one of them. You've just got quite a few, haven't you? You just, you know, eyebrows, like definitely. But now the writing, and you're so good at it. Because this story, when I was reading it, I just wanted to read more. And I don't read fiction anymore, you know, I just don't. I don't have the time for it. I couldn't stop reading it. I loved it. I thought I would read it. And I know that you were talking about sequels and also even bigger things. What's going on with all of that? Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes. Vassal is planned to be the first part of a trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
First part of a trilogy. I'm working on the second book right now. And that has been, it's really interesting getting switching from editing mode, because it was just been a lot of just editing material I had already written, and then having to switch back into creation mode.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That has been interesting switch. I don't switch that quickly. I know some writers can do that, slip into creative mode very quickly. And I wish I was more structured to where I could just be like, every day at 8 a.m. I have to write. And I'm much more of that writer who just needs to get up and leave the room because, you know, the muse has struck.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. It's like the download's coming and there's nothing you can do.
Yes, the download's coming.
Yeah. Doesn't matter what time, in the middle of the night, whatever. It's just, that's it. Yeah. That's amazing.
It's an interesting process, because really for me, when I started writing the first book, I had an idea of where I wanted to go, but it was unclear. I knew how I wanted to start. And then it was really interesting. I was traveling with my family in we're on a family cruise in Northern Europe. We were off the shores of Sweden. And then the whole thing just hit at one time.
Wow.
The entire book. And it was just so much, and I didn't want to lose anything. I literally got up and left the dinner table.
Wow.
And they were like, "Where are you going?" And I knew that they would be upset if I said that I had to go write. So I lied, and I said, my tummy's upset. My tummy's upset. I have to go.
Well, you know, it's beautiful that you say that, because that, you know, those downloads, that there's kind of like a real deeper meaning in all of that. You know, that's something in you. It's like it's giving birth, you know. It's a birthing of something that's, I believe, already in there. And it's just like, it's timing, and it's coming up. And you do really have to be open in that window that you're given. You know, I know when I was writing workshops in my 30s, you know, for women and so on, I used to have to have a pad next to my bed with a pen every single night, because I would get downloads in, you know, for personal development, spirituality, and I would have to write them because I would not be able to sleep. It was like they were just coming, and I would say sometimes, but I'm tired. And it would be just tough luck, write it, you know, it's now's the time. But, you know, we're talking about something a little bit different. This story, even though it's kind of the same, this story, how you're going to, do you know how you're going to be fleshing it out? Like, do you know the trilogy, the whole thing? Do you know the ending, or is that coming? Or
there are elements to the ending that I have ideas. There are possibilities. Like, there's a lot of it. I do know the trajectory of where it's heading, but as far as how the particular details of how certain elements are ending, I'm leaving that open to the magic, because there are just certain elements where I've just tried to think it through, and I feel like I've been trying to strong arm it into, you know, and you know, what's come to me is I'll know when I know, like, I will discover that as I flesh it out.
You know, it's
Like,
funny, isn't it? You're saying that to me, and I'm really sorry. But you know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking about TrueBrow, and I'm thinking about when I tell you girls, stop thinking about it and just go with the flow and
yes,
let the brow creators. That's exactly.
exactly, exactly, exactly,
Oh, that's
exactly. And
hilarious.
I think a lot of that is just knowing when to release control.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and open
Well,
yourself up
yeah.
to
To the
the
magic,
possibilities, to the magic, to the
to the
possibilities,
mystery.
and
Yeah.
and to be brave enough to meet the road, knowing that you'll figure out how you'll react when the road meets you.
Yeah, love that. That's
Yeah.
really, really beautiful. And I think, you know, that's a principle that goes across all of our life with everything, doesn't it? Our relationships, staying fresh all the time, not having to know. I mean, this whole idea of control is ridiculous. We don't have any anyway. We actually literally do not have any control. And if humanity really just allowed itself to fall into that flow, especially women, into that feminine, you know, energy, into what it
Yeah.
really is so receptive and able to be so receptive. Goodness me, what would this world be like? You know, the power of the feminine like that it's an extraordinary thing. Like when I think back of what I've created, what you've done, you know, it's a great example and continue to do really through that feminine creative power, you know, because it's very different, the masculine to the feminine. The masculine is
Yeah.
very important, but it is the feminine's got it down, you know. It just, when it comes to really that creative, just relaxing and allowing it to come without controlling it, there's just nothing like it in the world. The beauty and the wonder that it creates is extraordinary in everything. I mean, it makes babies, gives life. I mean, that's a really big thing when you think about it. So what more can you tell us about the book? Are you looking at movie, right? I mean, what's happening around it? Is it now that how long has it been out for? And have you had people read it and give you back feedback? What's actually going on with all of that?
Well, yes, it came out in August. It hasn't been out long. It's been out
Oh
for
my gosh,
almost,
that's
yeah, it's been
awesome.
out for a month now, so it's super fresh. I've had a lot of friends read it. I've had a lot of beta readers, and had great feedback from them. And but it was so exciting to get my first review from someone I don't know, and it was
Oh
an amazing.
wow.
It was like the most ideal type of review somebody could ask for, where they um they 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 communicate that they truly did read the book, you know, and
Wow.
gave some really, really clear and honest feedback that was just so lovely to hear. And the almost like, the elevator pitch I always give for Vassal is I like to give the example of a mashup. It's like Jane Austen's Persuasion meets Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
No.
Because it's
There you
a story
go.
about second chances and
Oh
writing
wow.
memories of the past, but we're doing it with vampires.
Oh, that's fantastic. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and buy it and finish reading it. That's what I'm going to do. I can't wait. And so we'll put up the link. So anyone, what's the age group? Tell us about the age group. For, you know,
So
is it teenagers? Is it younger kids or older? Like what would you say?
I would say that this is definitely geared more towards there is a emerging unofficial kind of a genre in literature where they call it emerging adult, where it's not YA young adult, but it's emerging adult would be like the next group after the in your 20s and everything. But honestly, anybody from 20 to really from like 20, 40, 50, like
So you're
that
not
it will,
you're not saying teenagers really, you're saying more, you know, someone that's
yeah,
out of teen.
definitely.
And why would you say that? Why would you?
I am definitely dealing with more teenagers can read it. It's totally fine, but I'm definitely dealing and touching on more adult themes. And by adult themes, I don't mean strictly just sex, death, violence. You know, we're not talking about the type of adult themes that, say, movie ratings, you know, zero in on. This, I feel, really taps more into the process of maturity and how we handle loss and death and recover from it. And that's why I really and I like that comparison to Jane Austen. Not that I'm anywhere near the level of Jane Austen, but especially with Persuasion, it's a story of a woman who said no to a sailor because they were in love and they were too young. And then he comes back rich, and now she's poor, and now they're doing a do-over, and they're coming back together again. And so the theme in Vassal is similar to that, in that it is in a lot of ways a do-over, but also it touches on the fact of mourning, that we can't go back to yesterday. And Jane Austen said that she wrote Persuasion as well for women like herself and her sister Cassandra. They were both engaged at periods of time, and Jane Austen broke her engagement while Cassandra's fiance died at sea. And so she said she wrote Persuasion for women like herself and Cassandra who were in the autumn of their life and would never know spring again.
Wow.
And she wanted to write a fairy tale for them. And I thought that was the most beautiful way to put it. And I was very inspired by that vibe of feeling like you were in the autumn of your life. You wouldn't know spring again, but autumn and winter can still be beautiful and full of joy.
Isn't that really, really beautiful? You know, I think that now, I think from what you're saying, it does sound like you're digging deep into, you know, particular themes that maybe are more, you know, appropriate for, you know, girls in their 20s, boys, whatever. But I don't know, I just get a feeling teenagers nowadays, you know, they've got some pretty big issues they're dealing with, and I wouldn't sort of, you know, teenagers love vampire stories anyway, you know, like I wouldn't, it'd be interesting to get some teenagers to read it and see if they kind of get it, but that sounds fantastic. And I think that, you know, with the other book, are you the second, like, timing?
I am putting the deadline on myself that it needs to be out by next fall. So I have a lot put together, and just need to go in and flesh it out. The problem is, you know, I need to write a lot, and I need to sit with it.
Yeah.
And then I'll know what needs to be taken out. And so much of it happens on a psychic level for me. I blame my Mercury in Pisces. My brain is in the soupy, mystical stew of Pisces. And so I just marinate in things.
That's fantastic. Look, you know, I know what it's like, because I write a lot, but I also I could never, I actually started writing a fiction book, in fact, and it was a historical romance. And I actually started writing it one day when I'd had this little tiff with Toby about 6 years ago. And I felt like I needed to go inside to my emotions and just like write this story. And I wrote about 4 pages of it, and I read it every now and again because I love it, and it's so raunchy and it's so good. And I think it was like I don't know, maybe last year, my brother read it and Toby read it, and they're saying, you've got to finish this thing. But it's because it's so good, right? But it is so big a task to do what you have done, because look, you can write, like I wrote The Power Shift, I write online courses, I write all these things. But when you're writing a fantasy like that, where all these pieces have to meet up, like I'm never going to pick that book up and keep writing it. There's just no way, because it really, I mean, I commend you for even attempting it, because it's a lot. And when you have, you know, your Pisces all messy, like you were just saying, wherever it is, I don't know, I've probably got it in the same spot, who knows, but you know, then it's even, you know, you've really got to sit with it. So look, I know you're going to do it. I think that whatever you put your mind to, you do. I can't wait to go and buy this book. I'm going to read it, and I'm going to give you a review for sure, but I'm really sad that I know you. I'm not going to be one of these people that doesn't know you. But I hope that the girls actually go and read it, because it is in support of, women, what women are doing out there, girls. If you think of COVID, the pandemic, many people stayed home and went through so much difficulty. Others did so many tremendous things. Each of us to our own, each of us use time and opportunity in different ways. And for Alice, I want to sort of celebrate her for how she's a shining example of how someone could use something so challenging for the entire world to bring some brightness and to create something as she did. And I think you're a wonder, because you did that, and I do. And I know that a lot of other girls did it too. A lot of women, a lot of men did a lot of amazing things during that really challenging time. But it just shows you that wherever, there's always an opportunity, isn't there?
Yes.
Always. It's always like, look for that. Always in your life, just look for the opportunity, even when something is just so so difficult. Alice, thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to share with us about Vassal? Anything at all? Just that we'll pop the link up, or is there anything that comes to your mind? Any particular little thing?
Yeah, I'll definitely give you the link. Would love if anybody checks it out. But, just I was so inspired by what you were just saying about how everything has, there's opportunity in everything. And I would just love to, if I may, just piggyback off of that. We really need to we need to just be very sensitive to and courageously confront all of where our shoulds live, because I wouldn't have finished this book. I wouldn't have gone into astrology. I wouldn't have done all these things if I didn't first confront my shoulds and where do these shoulds come from. And I think what happened during the pandemic was it gave me the space to see the point where my shoulds met my wants, and I had to really confront that space right there, well, why can't I do this, and who said I shouldn't? And just not being at work, not being in a space where all my responsibilities were calling on me every day to act out all of my shoulds really gave me that space to be like, oh, actually, I don't need to do that. And so I just really want, everybody to do that for themselves so that they can see all that wonderful opportunity. And, that's what we mean by living authentically and truly.
Yeah, and really it's beautiful what you're saying, and being, the thing is that we need to be these shining demonstrations for other women of what is possible. And when a woman does shine like this, there is something in supporting her, and you taking the action to not only celebrate her, but read the book, read to see what's in there for you, because I'm telling you, these books, they're not ordinary. They're really very, very special. And I haven't even finished the whole thing. I know Toby read as much as you had actually given him here, and you never reads fiction, ever, and he couldn't stop reading it. So there's something really quite beautiful in them. And I just think that it's taking an action that celebrates. It's not good enough sometimes just to go, isn't she great? She's amazing. Take the action, buy the book, read it to, give it to your young daughter. I don't know, whatever it takes to actually just, say, wow, congratulations, great achievement. And it's still happening, which is amazing. Thanks so much once again for giving us your time, Alice. I don't know where this is going to go. I mean, this could be a movie someday. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if Vassal was a movie? That could happen. That would be fantastic. Can't just have Twilight. Come on.
Right. I know.
So we want the other side. We want the other side. That's really, really important. We want the balance. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll pop the link in so that you can go and check out the book. At least look at the cover. What's the cover like? That would have been cool if we could have shared it. Have you got one? Have we got a cover we can scratch?
Let me actually grab my copy.
That's going to be exciting. Let's see. Hey, who actually did the cover, Alice?
There you go.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's beautiful. Who did the oh, that's fantastic. And who did the cover?
I actually commissioned a company called ebooks.com actually.
Right.
And I told them what I
Beautiful.
wanted. I had my ideas and we discussed my aesthetic and then they cobbled it together.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah,
How does it feel to have your name on the book at the front?
it was so good. It feels so good. And it actually was a really fun and delightful experience self-publishing, because I know my husband, he's a very successful traditionally published author as well, and as well as being an editor. And so he really wanted me to go the route of traditional publishing. Never felt authentic to me. It really never felt
We
authentic to
didn't
me.
speak about that, did we, at all? I didn't even realize that
Mm-mm.
you self-published. See, that's another thing we didn't talk about. We were about to say goodbye. So, sorry, guys. Sorry, we got more. So you self-published. She self-published. Wow.
So, like he was my husband, and also some, he was just so sure. He was like, this is really, really good. You really, really need to try traditional publishing. And I just never felt it. Like you know how it is, like when you just don't feel aligned with
Oh,
something.
absolutely.
But he made a very good argument, because the thing is, like, once you self-publish something, it's nearly impossible to get it traditionally published later. So I thought, you know what, I'll give it a year of consistent effort trying to get an agent and go the self-publishing route. I had my qualms because I honestly do not think that the current model of traditional publishing is sustainable. I think they're struggling,
Yeah.
and I also don't like giving up control. And it's
Hmm.
not about control, but I just don't want somebody else telling me how to tell my story.
Well, yeah, I think that in this case, you're going with your wisdom. And what I also love is here you have your hubby who's, a publisher and a published author, and you still stood your own knowing in the midst of all of this. And I love that about you too, because that's not easy when someone else is telling you that actually is an authority, don't
And
do
then authority and
it like this. Yeah. And yet you still did what I think it's great, because you're right. If it's taken, it gets changed, and there's a cost,
exactly.
and you do pay a price. So I think that's not control. I think that's wisdom. And I think there's a difference between wisdom and control. We're not going to be all
So
loosey-goosey because we're,
exactly.
not all loosey-goosey, whatever. You've got to be able to know what's best. And I think that's fantastic. So you've self-published, and we're going to support you even more now. Ladies, did you hear that? That's it. We're just going to make this a bestseller. That's what we want to do. So that's awesome. Okay. And what does it mean to self-publish for you? You have to back it with basically, go ahead, you tell us.
It's so easy to do now, because with especially Amazon has a whole, an entire path that authors can, through which authors can self-publish. And you upload your materials, your cover. You still have to get all that stuff formatted correctly, and
Of course,
you have to get the
yeah.
cover done, and so there is work on your part. They don't do that part for you, but they put it on their store. They'll actually publish, they'll actually print and bind the book for you. They will sell it as an ebook, and they have a program, Kindle Unlimited, which is almost like it's a subscription service. It's like Spotify for books. You sign up for Kindle Unlimited,
Awesome.
and then you get to read all the books that are part of that membership. And authors can sign up to have their books enrolled in Kindle Unlimited, so that all the members that subscribe to it can have access to your book. And so I did that, and that's how I got my first legit review. So it's totally been working out.
Actually, I want to say something just as we're chatting. What has occurred to me is one of our very good friends here in Greece, who is actually not even Greek, but is like an expat, and he lives here with his girlfriend, is an author, and he self-publishes all the time. And he's one of the guys that, you know, it's like, it's a certain time of the day, bam, he's writing, forget it. You ring him, no answer, nothing. He's just got these, you know, really, it's fantastic. He's so disciplined. But because I've written, you know, I've written fairy stories, right? You know that, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And when he read my fairy story, he was so excited, and he said, "Oh, you've got to put this out. This is crazy. Why?" And I thought, "What in my spare time? Like where?" And he gave me all of the marketing for self-publishing. Actually, in fact, I should connect you with him. I think that would be great. You know, that's something that I should do. Yeah, he's fabulous, and he's doing great. Absolutely great. Anyway, beautiful to chat. Let me introduce you to my new family member. Can I do that? Just give me 1 second.
Yes, please.
My little bundle. You're gonna come and say hello. Oh, yes. Hello. You gonna say hi to everybody? Hi to everybody. Oh, isn't she beautiful? Oh my gosh. She does like to lick my ears and everything. Look. Oh, did I wake you? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I really am. Isn't she just a darling? This is Liza.
What's her name?
Liza, which actually is my Greek name. Can you believe that? When I adopted her, she had my name. Oh, she's adorable. I'm going to put her down because she's very excited. I'm sorry, darling. Anyway, she's a new addition to our family. So we've been very busy. Thank you. We've been very, very busy, and she's just delightful. But anyway, thank you, Alice, so much. This is great. We're going to finish now. I'm going to stop recording. And we'll get that link up for everyone. It's been beautiful to see you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye for now.